Three, two, one. I hate pigeons. Pigeons are disgusting and they should not be allowed in the cities. Do you know who didn't dislike pigeons? Tesla, Nikola Tesla, the great inventor. He actually was unusually fond of pigeons. He used to find ailing pigeons and bring them back to his hotel room. And I mean, one pigeon in particular, he fell in love with. And he wrote about this pigeon, quote, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was purpose to my life." Okay? This is how some great people feel about pigeons. I am not one of them. Okay? Picasso, his dad loved pigeons. Picasso's dad, he would paint pigeons all the time. He would paint them very naturalistic. Well, Picasso didn't really like pigeons, or his dad. Actually, they had such a beef between them, unspoken, complicated relationship, no therapists back then. But imagine that his dad stopped drawing when Picasso was 14 because Picasso drew better than him. Isn't that the biggest LOL? Like you have a son and it's becoming better than you at your own craft. And what do? You quit. Well, in any case, back to the pigeons. Picasso actually was eventually dropping the name of his father, and he kept his mom's because of that difficult relationship. And his mom's name was Picasso. I mean, come on, it is Picasso, right? But the funny thing is that Picasso also drew some pigeons. And you need to see the pigeons he drew. I really think that he was raising a middle finger to his father, who did not like, and his naturalistic pigeons. Because please Google Picasso pigeons right now and look at that monstrosity. They look like white chicken that escaped from Chernobyl. And I know he was uh, decomposing the naturalistic depictions, but still, the way he has drawn those pigeons definitely says something about it. I think I'll use it. I'll use it as a cover for this episode so you get to see it. Okay. My point is that pigeons are disgusting and are tearing families apart. This is where I'm going with this. Um, and this is why I don't tolerate pigeons in our balcony here in Berlin. And they have tried to take over in multiple ways, okay? And there is a lot of bird poo involved in this story. They sit somewhere on the roof of the building that is on top of the balcony, which makes everything a bomb site, okay? It's a bomb field for bird shit. You don't know if it's coming. You always need to look up. And let me tell you, it's very scary to even look up if you know that the next thing you could see is bird shit in your eye. So imagine trying to have a nice breakfast. It's not even a big balcony, okay? It's a tiny balcony that this apartment has. It can barely fit a little table. And having the niceness of it being able to eat a tiny breakfast looking outside is seriously damaged. So, yes, imagine having a breakfast not knowing if pigeon shit will rain down. So, anyway, we needed a plan. We needed a plan to make the pigeons afraid. And we tried a few things. The big crow didn't work. You know, these fake crows you can put left and right. But I guess that the pigeons are past that now, right? This is like 2010 news for them. They have figured out that the crow is fake. They're probably wondering why humans build statues of birds, put them in the balcony, and why those birds are not pigeons. But anyhow, I won't go into detail, but here's what has worked out. Okay? We are now the sovereign state of the balcony. How that worked out is with a water gun. This is what did it. No CDs hanging from the balcony. How ugly is that? Or shiny ribbons or sticks on the pots or whatever. It's a water gun, not a small water gun. It doesn't look like a small cowboy toy. No, it looks like a monster. It looks like one of these big Nerf guns that you can put almost 2 liters of water in. Okay, it needs to be pumped thoroughly before you can shoot away. It's like a huge shot water gun situation. It's big and it's orange, bright orange and bright blue, which I really like because these random neon colors make it look even more dangerous to the birds. They've learned to recognize it. It's like some exotic predator. So, this is how it has worked out. I'm shooting water in the pigeons and it can go pretty far. So, if they're standing on the roof on top of the balcony, I can get to them. And this is how I keep my territory. This is the thing that has worked out. Is it animal cruelty? I don't know. Is it animal cruelty if it's a very hot day? Huh? Think about that. I think it's quite refreshing. I think it's God's work. They always look like they need a bath anyways, fucking disgusting. So why not give them one? And yes, when I find them, I give them a bit of a surprise bath, and they fly across and they clean themselves in the building that sits on the other side of the balcony. And they looked at me. They looked at me, and this is when I stepped outside on the balcony with my boxers, my hairy chest everywhere, and I raised the gun up in the air, okay, like I'm playing in Mad Max Balcony Fury, and I let the plastic neon shine with the sunlight. And my hope is, and they could see it from afar, they knew that I am the alpha male there. Much unlike the goat milking you heard the other day, I've done a 360, not a 360. 360, you go where you started. I've done a 180, like a Tony Hawk. I don't know. I don't have references. I'm sorry. But yes, there I was outside, shining my gun in the sunlight and looking at them, and they knew. So my hope is that I'm traumatizing them, basically. My hope is that I'm traumatizing them long enough so they never try to come again in our balcony. Actually, my hope is that I'm traumatizing them strong enough that it creates generational trauma. This is my goal, because then they not only know not to come to my balcony, but their children will not come to my balcony and their relatives will not come to my balcony. I want the rumors to spread. Hi everyone, this was a hardcore intro. I'm Hermes. It's Sunday or Monday. This is yet another expat, the podcast where I'm a guy behind the microphone, sharing a collection of random thoughts, news, current world topics, things that stood out, whatever it is. Okay, a big thank you to the listeners of this podcast. I had Polly sending me a video of a beetle upside down that could not help itself, even though it was a gravel road. And I think if there are small rocks around, maybe by twisting you can bump your way and flip around. But no, that beetle was the same level of incompetence that the beetles in Greece had, could not roll itself over, and Polly rolled it. So thank you, Polly, for sharing the content. I guess the beetles are thanking you for saving yet another beetle. Evan is finally listening to an episode, and he wrote that the GOAT episode is the thing he needed in life. Feels very empowering to get things like that. I know my podcast is probably the best thing in the world right now. Do you know what is quite fun to do? Asking Google for a random fact. And this is something that I did some months ago, and it always seems to be anchored around some premise that I don't understand. I think there's some coder in Google that is responsible for giving these random facts, and I think that they go into some sort of themes. So the last time I tried this around Easter, every time I asked on my phone, the assistant, the smart speaker in the house, to give me a random fact, it would always be about women entrepreneurs and inventors. And I thought in the beginning I really liked the facts, but then I thought, wait a minute, there is such a clear pattern. Why is it only sharing women researchers and inventors? Of course, it's true that they are completely underrepresented. Even the writers of Wikipedia are predominantly men, even the ones writing about women topics and covering women entrepreneurship. So I thought, okay, maybe it's a thing. I asked Google today to give me a random fact. Do you know what it told me? It told me that the Comodo dragons cannibalize their babies often. So their babies have to cover themselves in shit. This is what it gave to me today. And then I asked it again, hey, can you give me another random fact? And it told me that the Comodo dragons cannibalize their babies, so often their babies are rolling around in shit. And then I asked it a third time to give me a random fact. Guess what? Comodo dragons cannibalize their babies. So I'm actually very curious, and this is the question of this podcast. And if you're listening to this podcast, give it a go. Have you ever replied to a podcast episode on Spotify or Apple? Maybe not. Maybe now this is the time, because my question to you is, what happens if you ask your Google Assistant, or I will also accept Siri or other ones, to give you a random fact? What is the random fact you're getting? And if you're getting a Komodo dragon, then there is some sort of conspiracy we need to look into. But okay, let's get this whole thing started. A lot of things are happening this week. Well, I guess a lot of things are happening always, but we have a major IT outage from Crowdstrike that made thousands of planes stay on the ground. It crippled computers everywhere in the world. People woke up in that day and it was like, hey, wait a minute, nothing is working. Flights don't work, the banks don't work. I find it quite fascinating and scary, of course, the interconnectedness of the world. But I find extremely interesting how the right piece of software that is embedded into systems can cause so much chaos. Now, what happened, for those who don't know, CrowdStrike is a company that sells cybersecurity software. Basically, if you have a huge organization and you're worried about cybersecurity, you have two options: either hire your own internal cybersecurity team and try to train them and keep them up to date and create your own defenses, or you can go to a well-trusted company that does cybersecurity and get that outsourced in a way, bring it in. And CrowdStrike is one of the most reputable cybersecurity companies. It's integrated in a lot of systems, servers, and processes. And they pushed an update that was apparently making the computer crash, which is a horror scenario. So basically, every computer that got that update crashed, and then the computer couldn't load. So that means that servers went down, computers that handle transactions went down, computers that handle hospitals went down. And it's not that you can just restart the computer and things can work. These computers are often located in server farms or in places where not everyone has access. Let's just say that IT people definitely overworked this week trying to clean up the mess, because the machine had to be accessed physically, rebooted in safe mode. You had to download a fix that CrowdStrike gave and then go and delete the previous update and bring that on. Like, we're talking about manual work for every single computer. And I'm just thinking, imagine being the guy or girl who pushed that code. The wrong zero is in the wrong place. Machine goes boom. Half of the world gets paralyzed for a day or two. All of this shows something. What does it show? It shows how cyber attacks will work if they ever go full scale. This is the important thing for me here. This is the topic I want to bring. Cyber attacks are already happening in all sorts of ways and forms, but we haven't seen yet nations fighting using widespread cyber attacks that are blatantly obvious that there is a war going on. But if cyber attacks were to go full scale, it would very much look exactly like this. There are different ways that you can have attacks, but one of the major ones is attacking through trusted partners. What does this mean? It means when you have a system that is super secure, you have a bank, you have the airport controllers, there are way too many defenses. It's very, very difficult. But now imagine that you had a way to disguise yourself as a trusted partner. So imagine this fortress that is super guarded heavily. If a maintenance guy is working there, if a plumber is working there, then you could hack the maintenance guy, and then you don't need to worry about the rest of the security. The maintenance guy will be allowed in, will go to the right place, will plug the right thing. And this method of attack has actually been used before. So instead of trying to break into the system, just break into something that the system is using. If you want to look stories like this, state organized hacking initiatives. You can look at the NotPetya um, incident in the war with Ukraine. It's covered greatly in the Darknet Diaries podcast. So this is a podcast that covers stories about cyber attacks and cyber criminals in a very simple and understood way. Great narration. Episode 54 actually goes into the NotPetya, which shows how a Ukrainian, if I remember correctly, an accounting software was hacked that was used by almost every company in Ukraine, and then that caused the company's networks to go down. This also happened with the US getting classified documents out with the SolarWind hack, if you want to look into that. SolarWind was again a company that was used by a lot of administrative places and secret services. If we ever go in a full-on war, these types of cyber attacks could cripple the world quite quickly. And the ways to deliver these attacks exist. Now we just got to see it from an accident. There was no malicious intent on this code. But this is exactly what would happen in a real attack scenario. But anyway, moving on, we mentioned in the last episode that, I guess the whole planet knows now that Trump got shot. Yes, he got shot. He moves too much, so the bullet barely hit him. He moves his head a lot. And I know that we're living in wild times, and the US is into some deep shit right now, one way or another, by the way. Polls are showing that Trump will win. And if he does, I know a lot of people fear how things can be. But fear comes from not knowing. The true terror comes if you look into all the things that Trump has said he will do, because it's all out in the sun. He doesn't hide much of what the agenda will be. He has a plan on how to rule. And if you're interested enough to get worried about it, it's called Project 2025. John Oliver did a great show called Trump's Second Semester. He covered a lot of what Trump and his teams intend to do, which is extremely shocking, and I think that everyone should have an idea. But yes, there's this thing, Project 2025, which is basically Trump's blueprint for a radical conservative takeover of the US government. And when I say takeover, I mean that there are policies there that straight up threaten civil rights. They plan to change how the staff of the federal government is, how people are employed in the federal government, essentially being able to remove any specialist or expert that they don't like. This means that if Trump wants to say that a tornado is coming and the meteorologist is the Federal Meteorology Service says, hey, there is no tornado coming, and Trump disagrees with that, beforehand, you could not remove the experts you have in the government. They are an integral part. The politic part can change, so different administrations can come in, but the expertise you need to actually run a country and run the government, the federal employees, they stay intact. They are not part of what changes. When governments change back and forth, the expertise staff that needs to be in these positions stays in these positions. Now, Trump wants to change that and to be able to reclassify federal employees, basically giving them the right to kick out qualified experts and put in their place loyalists who will do anything that he wants. And this is on a big scale, not just his staff. By the way, do you know how Trump changed his chief of staff? He was walking with the person that was carrying his luggages, and he got a call that they had some problems hiring some people in the White House. And immediately Trump asked the guy, hey, do you think you could be my chief of staff? The guy carrying his suitcases. And then this is what happened. The most hardcore loyalist you can imagine, not fit to do the job, but perfectly fit to blindly obey any orders they get. So, yes, I think Trump will be a real threat to the democracy and the world. He's ready to start tariff wars again and make the dollar stronger. And he doesn't believe in NATO, which is what has been keeping some sort of balance in Europe. I think there will be a domino effect on all of these topics. But what's the opposition here? It's like there is this villain, this super villain that now even has a hero story and he's ready to shine. And the best thing that the opposition can send is my grandpa who has dementia to fight him over. My grandpa who has to wear Velcro shoes because he can't tie his shoelaces anymore. And he needs to hear something 5 times to understand it. Like, this is not someone you send to run a country like the US. I cannot believe we're still in this reality. You should put Biden in a table with your relatives and the children. Give him some card game to play, or a memory game. But it's sad. Still, there hasn't been a change. I'm not sure if a change at this point would raise the chances of Trump not getting elected. But at least someone needs to be able to pick up a fight. Right now, everyone is opposing to Biden, who said, "No, I can do this," and immediately after he got COVID. So he is locked home, not even able to make any public appearances. Not that they are any better when he does them, but yes, things are looking grim. But as someone wrote on the internet, Biden could regain America's trust with one perfect backflip. And I can't agree more to that. Let's see what happens in this wild world, and let's see what it means for us. I recently went to the cinema after a long time. Kino visit. There are some open air kinos here in Berlin, but I didn't go to one of them. I planned to, but I went to a normal kino. I saw Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie. He's the director of Poor Things, The Favorite, Lobster, and other things, if you haven't heard of him. Kinds of Kindness is generally disturbing, I would say, which is a good thing. I hadn't looked up anything about the film before going to the cinema. This is a new thing. I used to always check the plot or the summary, sometimes IMDb ratings or just a few lines. But now there are some movies that I know I want to see because of reasons, and I decide to go see these movies knowing absolutely nothing. No trailer whatsoever, no plot. Just go in and take it as it is. And I like that. I enjoy it a lot. Take it as it is. You can be shocked or disturbed or bored, but I don't like having any expectation. So I went for Kinds of Kindness, and yes, it was quite disturbing. I will keep this spoiler free, don't worry. I like my brain being provoked and surprised and annoyed, having to work through the feelings created. I appreciate that. Um, I remember even the Aronofsky film Mother, that a lot of people walked out from the cinema as it was playing. I had some sort of weird appreciation for how disturbing that movie is and what that is intentionally doing to the viewer. I felt that it was a movie made to, yes, push the viewer in uncomfortable places more than actually bringing a point about the movie itself. Anyway, Kinds of Kindness, a bit close to that, okay? I'm not sure what the movie was criticizing exactly. I feel that there was this overlay of criticism towards norms or behaviors or established things. Um, this is not a spoiler. This is a very general thing, and you will see it in every Lanthimos movies. But these, fucked up setups that he has that get normalized because you see it from the disturbed point of view of the protagonist. I like that. You enter a bizarre headspace and you have to accept things that don't make sense. Like, take me into your mental illness. Mine is too boring and I have it every day. So let's dive into yours and see how things go. A few people left from the cinema, at least two that I noticed, and there were a few audible moments where the whole cinema went like, ew. But all in all, I stand somewhere in the middle. I like that I saw it a bit too long for my taste and a bit too, yeah, still disturbing, but not in a way that was directed into something that I could take away or position in. I felt it was a bit vaguely structured. Maybe I'm not a good audience, but yeah, that was me. I haven't read anything about it, so maybe that helps put my head around things later. This is something I do. I go unprepared, I watch a movie, but then once my brain starts working and I wonder about it, I go in IMDb, I read the comments, I read the summary, what did the director mean, I like that. But first, I wait to form an opinion and then go there. Speaking of movies, I started watching Breaking Bad again with my girlfriend, and I haven't watched it since it aired. I was one of those downloading every episode from the dark corners of the internet, trying to find the subtitles online from one of these beautiful voluntary places that would translate and watch week by week. When the season was over, I would suffer and talk with people about it until the next season is out, yada, yada, yada. So it has taken that mental space from me. Now we're watching Breaking Bad on Netflix, so you can do episode after episode. And something I realized is that I get something in me is kicking because the episodes are slower and longer than what I'm used to. So the episodes are like, I don't know, 50 minutes or 45. And this series is started shooting in 2005. Okay. So the world was different in 2005. Our attention spans were different in 2005. And this series is shot in a slow, calm way with beautiful still photography and direction. But I find myself getting annoyed that things are not faster. And just being aware of that, pointing it out is a surprise. I know the world is much more fast and I accept it in a lot of ways of how I live my life, how I access information, how quickly I can answer multiple people or multitask. But the fact that my brain is watching something and sitting there and saying, go, 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 come on, why is this taking so long? Do it faster. I don't care. What happens next? That is something a bit warming for me. Um, I striking difference of having to work with my head to accept this pace. That is a bit worrying. My dear information consuming friends, what do you think about that? Are we all doomed? Can we all overclock so fast? Are we all going to get burned out and return to nature flipping beetles over? Who knows? Let's start wrapping this podcast up. One more thing I want to express rage for, a lot of emotions in this podcast, is ad blocker. YouTube has finally managed to crack my ad blocker. It doesn't let me use it anymore. It has a pop-up that says, hey, we know you have ad blocker. We will let you watch 3 more videos and then commercials are back. I like that they're giving me this heads up so I can start working internally with myself in accepting it. And yes, now YouTube wants me to watch things, and it feels insufferable, even though these things are, I don't know, are 10 seconds or 5 seconds or 20 seconds. By the way, they're testing you with these things. Of course, they want to add as many seconds as they can in these commercials. And I get very annoyed. And at the same time, I remember watching TV as a child or a teenager where the commercial break would be as long as the freaking episode I was watching itself. We're talking about 20, 30, 40 minutes of commercials before the movie comes back. And here I am now flipping over 10 seconds. I think this is connected to the previous. It also probably means that our time, our attention, is more expensive. We talked about some episodes before that actually our attention is the currency. This is the currency that so many of these things are tapping into. So anyway, just thoughts. I'll try to find a better version of ad blocker because I cannot be paying so many subscriptions in my life. But all I'll say to wrap this, I went by this soccer field and it's pretty hot now. So they had a water cannon, spraying water all over it to water the grass. And somehow 2 kids managed to sneak in, and they were playing football while being blasted by this water cannon. The water cannon was shooting far and in the air, so it would land next to them, and it would also move. So I don't know. There was something about this visual of these two young boys sneaking in, being completely wet head to toe, and enjoying the slippery grass and trying to play football while being blasted by water. It felt like the right activity to do. So this is my takeaway wish to you, to find your, I don't know. This is too spiritual. Find your soccer field and enjoy the water cannon blasters while playing football. This is my advice to you, and probably the advice to the pigeons as well. Just enjoy the water. If you like this podcast, feel free to, I don't know, just do something with it. Poke it with a stick. Like, subscribe, press follow, press the bell. Leave a comment. You need to leave a comment of what happens when you ask Google or your other services to give you a random fact. What is that? Let me know. Remember to flip the Beatles if you see them. Use an intermediary company if you want to hack into a big player. Cross your fingers for the election somehow. Watch disturbing films. Be the ruler of your balcony. Keep the pigeons away. Watch those ads. But most importantly, remember that the Comodo dragons cannibalize their babies, so their babies often roll in shit.